right, everybody. So this one's gonna be the last video I make, and it's gonna be kind of the longest, and I'll explain all of this. Uh, when I first started this, I wasn't sure where it was going. I just knew there was a lot of warnings that I needed to get out, and they just everything ended up working itself out. It ended up working itself out, and I believe that God is opening doors, and I'll get into that. But yeah, this was supposed to be a long-term endeavor. It was just to get the warnings that I wasn't sure where it was going, and I ended up finding out or knowing that there were people watching that was close to me that I guess were trying to act like they weren't watching, but it was fine. Um, this wasn't supposed to be some long-term YouTube ministry where I'm just going and doing my own thing. It was nothing like that. It's just simply warnings for what's to come, and I believe it had a couple of roles to play. One was obviously the warnings portion, but that was also when these things start happening and coming to pass that maybe people will see like, hey, there's something more to life than just drinking, partying, or doing whatever you want and doing what you feel. But there's a lot of people giving warnings, saying similar things, and at a certain point it's going to stop being a coincidence, and it's going to start being, hey, how did you guys know? And it's not us. It's just Jesus is real, and I believe that's the purpose it had, is to show people there's something else, and that God's real, and it's not a game, a joke, a fairy tale, or nothing like that. And so yeah, halfway through I started realizing like, hey, this isn't a long-term thing. After a certain point, this is going to stop, and it's just going to be here. And I'm not the only one that's said or done or whatever some of these things. Some are very specific that I believe was just for me to get out to warn, but there's a reoccurrence all across the country, maybe around the world, of people giving warnings, and it's almost the same exact things, just in different ways, different dreams or visions and whatnot. So where I was struggling with it, I guess it's just like a moment of transparency. I didn't understand it. I felt like, what, I'm crazy. There's no way. Especially, I'm actually studying psychology because my heart is to help with mental health. And I'm like, by the book, I'm crazy. This doesn't make sense. What's going on, Lord? And there was just confirmations throughout it where it's like, no, you're not. And some of the things I said happened, and some of the things I dreamed, it happened. And it's like, okay, this is real. I'm not losing my mind. And so where it happens, it's like everything's not going to make sense all at once, even though however hard we try to make sense of things in our own mind, in our own doing. We try and figure out the whole thing before it even happens. And what I wanted to share is just like, stop trying to figure out the whole Picasso. Stop trying to figure out the details of the painting that you've never seen before, trying to guess what the painting is about, when all you've been dealt, or what all you can see is just, two strokes of the brush. You're never going to guess what it is, all the details. You're never going to see the full picture. You do what you're told, or you go how the Lord leads you. And there's a plan to it. It's always going to work its way out. It's always going to work itself out when he's in control. And, God's opening doors. And there's doors nobody can close. And I believe, and someone else said it, and I'm starting to see it, I believe he's just planting people in positions that are going to listen to him, to be able to help and plan for what's to come, help people and help plan better for what's coming. I said a while ago when I was giving the warnings, like, hey, we're in the grace period, and, after June 1st, there was going to start being the beginning and the tricklings what was going to end up happening, leading on. And what I'm going to share also here in a short bit, I believe it's what's getting ready to happen the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know the order. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I just know some of these things are coming. But he's planting people. He's planting us in positions to be able to just help people, to prepare, to plan, because there's bad people out there trying to do bad things, and I don't know everything. I'm not the smartest dude out there. None of that. I'm just, someone that's real about Jesus and just in the Word, and I have a heart to help people out. And so, what's coming? I don't know the order, but I know this is coming. There's going to be a terror attack. There's going to be war, famine, disease, and then an attempted R invasion on American soil. And I've had dreams on all of these things. I know other people have as well, and it's just not a coincidence. We aren't crazy. We're not like conspiring for something. It's just this is what's happening, and we have to prepare. And like I said, we're getting put in positions to be able to help people, help plan, help just to attempt to stop or mitigate. I don't know, but all we can do is give the warnings. There's a man, and I like the saying. It was a testimony of a man. He was shot a couple of times in Chicago. He said he was a former gang member, and he had a testimony of that he experienced, something after this life, and it was hell, and he came back, and he tells people, hey, you got to live right. But it was one thing he said that stuck with me, and it was, if you're delivering a package and your job is just to go get the package and deliver it, get the message, deliver it. It's not meant for you to walk inside the house with the person and help them open up the box a certain way and help make them enjoy what's in the box. You just drop the package, and that resonated with me, and essentially that's what I'm doing. So there's a couple things I'm supposed to share. The last part is for somebody specific, and they'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say it. But yeah, it's something with China, and it's not about what can be seen and what's visible, but it's what's underground. There's an area that doesn't make sense that appears to be based off of greed, but it's what's underground that's important to them. Y'all are sizing them up in the wrong areas. I know this, they are pretending to be weaker than what they are. And I'm hoping that, someone out there in government can look into that and just prepare, because they're trying to do harm to us. And it's everybody out here that are the experts, whatever else, and people are rumors of wars and everything else. They're planning, and they're looking to be weaker than what they really are. And then before I get into the next ones, I want to give a clarification on a dream. And this was just amazing how it happened. And I stated before, I don't like to try and guess what the dreams are. I don't like to try and go too far into it. I just, say them, because they're not always what I think they are. And then they end up happening, but it's because it's just another way. What I thought it would be, it wasn't that. And so there was one in particular where hold on, let me move the phone. Someone walking by. Okay. So there was one dream in particular where I said something along the lines of like the moon was in a place, and it was like kind of getting darker, and it was weird because it was daytime, and I was in a parking lot, and there was like this protection and so forth. And there was like I was like at a hospital at an appointment. We left and had to come back. And it's funny because I think a couple people comment, oh, this sounds like the eclipse and all that. I just didn't comment. At the time, that would have been my assumption also, but then this ended up happening in another way that was kind of funny. But what ended up happening with that, if you haven't seen that, it's in a previous video, but I'm trying to explain it. I had a doctor's appointment, and I told the doc, like, hey, have something for you. I wanted to give him something. And the next appointment I had with him, I forgot to give it to him. And I was like, dang, I'll get it next time. I'll get it to you next time, doc. So I ended up returning a little while after that, gave him what I wanted to give him. And that was the part of the dream where I left. And I was like, oh, hey, we got to go take this back. And I told him I was going to give him something, and I had to wait to go give it back to him. That was that portion. The other portion, I said there was the moon in the sky, and it seemed like it was daytime, and it got a little darker. And what ended up happening is it's one of those days where it's weird, where the moon is kind of up during the daytime, and it's like a half moon or whatever, and you just kind of see it there, and it's kind of weird, Star Wars looking thing, but it happens every so often. It's kind of cool. That day, that is how the sky looked. It was like the afternoon time, and the sun was still up, but the moon was up, and you could see it both. And it was kind of cool. And that's what that part of the dream was. And the portion of the parking lot where I said there was protection, I went to go get food. And so as I was waiting for my food, I was sitting in the parking lot, and I just felt like the presence of God. And I was like, whoa, like, what's happening? It was very intense. And I've only felt that one other time, it was protection. It was something was going on that I didn't understand, but I knew it was bad. And I just felt it, and it was like kind of protection. I got out of Dodge, And so I felt that there, and I was like, okay, Lord, what's up with that? And he was just like, grace and mercy. Grace and mercy. And I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, okay, but grace and mercy. And it was like everything that was in that dream. The assumption at the time, it would have been safe for me to say, oh, it was the eclipse, but it wasn't. It was something totally different, and all those things ended up happening. And that's why I don't dive too deep into those. But I say that to say, people were commenting on the one where I mentioned the black swan stuff. And I was like, something's coming where something's going to pretend to be something it's not. And people are going to like it, and it's going to be like the best thing ever to them, like super beautiful, but it's not what it's pretending. And so a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I feel like it's Donald Trump. Something's not right. And I just been feeling it. Something's off, something's not right. I don't care about either political party like that. I'm kind of apathetic to that. I really don't care. I think both kind of parties have issues, but it is what it is. Something just didn't sit right with the whole Bible thing and everything. Like, I'm not even talking about the case, it was just the whole Bible issue, and it just felt like a super hard sell to a certain amount of people, and that's politics, but it's just something's off. Something's off, and I feel like, and like I said, I don't care about Biden or not, I don't care, but something's just off. And I think if this man does end up getting in office for whatever reason, if he gets the votes, it's going to start off good, but there's going to be a switch up, and it's not going to be what people thought it was. A lot of people are going to like it and be all happy about it, but it's not going to be what you thought it was. It's going to start off good, and there's going to be a switch, and it's not going to be good after that. And that if he gets in, that's what's going to end up happening. And I really feel strongly that's what that dream was about. And then I also wanted to share a dream. I said this in a previous video, but I know there's one person in particular that is going to see this, and this portion was for them, this little area. And so I had a dream, and I said this in a previous video, where I was on a beach like this, and there were two people. It was a man and a woman. They were walking me down to this little small building or shelter of some sort. It looked like a mini dock with like a mini boathouse on it, or next to it. And so they didn't grab me or anything like that, but it was like I was kind of forced to go with them. And we walked into this shelter, and there was a small little rowboat. And so I got onto the boat, and this huge storm came. And so at the shelter, it was like a small hut big enough for the boat, and there was a garage door in front of it with windows where you can see through. And the huge storm is coming outside the shelter. I mean, these waves were massive, and they were just smacking against the wall or the door. But inside the shelter, the waves were kind of rough, but it wasn't as rough as if I was outside that shelter. And so the storm started dying down, and then it eventually stopped. And there was a small, or not a small, but a very skinny Caucasian woman that walked in. When she walked in, the two people that had walked me down to the shelter, they walked to the back of the boat. At the back of the boat, there was a lion, and the lion was attacking these two people, and it ended up eating them. And they were just like gone. And so I was freaking out, and I'm like, yo, what's going on? And I'm like kind of hiding. And then the woman that had walked in, the skinny woman, she walked in and was like, hey, are you scared? And I looked at her, I was like, oh no, but I was like, it was obvious I was scared. And she was like, okay, come with me. And we walked to the back of the boat where the lion was, and the lion was super friendly. Like it was joking with us, talking, and it said like some encouraging words, and I don't remember anything of it. I just know it was positive. And me and her, we ended up walking up. She walked me to the door on the way out. And as I'm standing there in the doorway, kind of like how this beach is, but the direction I was, it was the ocean was to my right hand side, the sand was in front of me, and the city was to the left. And with that, above us were these super dark gray clouds, like little breaks in them where you kind of see light, but it was like fire in it. And so as I'm watching it, at the time I went to the door, it was over the sand, and it was making its way over the city, and I knew like there was destruction, like bad things were getting ready to happen. But with that being said, this person's probably figuring out what I'm talking about at this point, but I wanted to say thank you, Allison. Thank you. And I feel like you're gonna pick up what I'm putting down here, and if you're not figuring out right now, you will very soon. It's the husband, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. But it's gonna make sense. And